Welcome to Gold Fever Radio.
I go straight from the bank, gassing up the tank, cranking up the radio, playing old Hank. It ain't that long.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome. It is, I almost said Tuesday. It is Wednesday, August the 9th, 2023. How time is flying by. Let me get over into this chat room there. It's filling up now. Let's see who's all in here. Let me run down their sills real quick here. Paul, hello. Dennis, hello. Patty. You guys carrying on a conversation. I see that. Herb, welcome. And Jedi Birdman. Daryl Lane. Okay, I'm ready. Let's get the show on the road. Okay, you guys coming in. Let's see what's happening here. There's 144 days left in this year. What is today? Today is National Passion Fruit Day. It's National Rice Pudding Day, and it's National Book Lovers Day. Let's see, famous birthdays today. Dustin Hoffman, he's 86. He was born in 1937. You know, he began his acting career, let's see, at the Pasadena Playhouse with his roommate and fellow actor Gene Hackman. He made his debut in 1967 in the film Tiger Makes Out. And if it's your birthday too, happy birthday to you. Let's see, what else going on? Events, we got our Meadview Push. That push is scheduled for October 14th and 15th up there in Meadview on the Meadview Claims. That's where we bring the dozer or the backhoe in there and scrape down some ground and metal detect and get some nuggets. Our New Year's extravaganza, December 27th to 1/1. And of course, there's a Patreon outing, channel supporter for all channel supporters and Patreons. That's on November 18th and 19th on one of the claims out here. And let's see, we've got a wheel that's going to be starting tomorrow, so you guys can call in early and get in on that. It's going to be gold nuggets and pay dirt bags. And outside of that, that's all I got. That's all I got. Let's see, James, hello. TJ, hello. Red, hello. Mike Duffy, hello. Stephen Peasley, Aaron. All right, you guys. So we do have a guest in the house. Can you believe it? We got to ask him some questions. We'll do something. I got to get rid of. I got some knee pads. I got this ghost underneath my table. It keeps tapping on me on my knees, so I keep trying to give him knee pads, but they won't take my knee pads. We'll do some stuff a little bit later, but let's get our guest in here that you guys are all waiting for. Cottonwood Trails Gold Camp. Hello, Craig Carter. Hello, Buck Rackley. Terry Curry. Hello, guys. All right, a guest. Here we go. The one, the only, the infamous.
I'm not very infamous, Jack.
Terry Carter himself. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing great. How you doing?
Hey, surviving the heat, man.
I guess it's probably pretty hot there. I'm doing a little job here in Wyoming. It's been cold the last few days, down into the 50 degrees.
Wow, you're in Wyoming, huh?
Yeah.
Is there any treasures out in Wyoming?
I had a guy call me last night and was telling me some things. He showed up at our gathering and he showed me some old coins that he found. He says, "Hey, I want to show you. I think I found some old Spanish coins," and he had a handful of them. And I looked at them, and they are old, weathered, bad, but they look more Roman to me than Spanish. But I don't know, man. It's hard to imagine Roman coins around here, but there's rumors that the Romans were here in the United States.
You never know, huh?
Ancient times. You never know.
Okay, so you are a big treasure hunter, I'm assuming. That's what you're known for, treasure hunt.
I try to do it when I can. Yep.
Okay. So let's back up and just kind of, when did you first get involved treasure hunting, and what got you involved treasure hunting?
So back in 1982, 82 or 3, I think it was. I did some work on I went out to a power plant out by Vernal, Utah, to help build that power plant, the Bonanza power plant. And while I was out there, one of my coworkers, his family was searching for the Lost Roads mine. And the Lost Roads mine, that's kind of a big story in Utah in the Uinta Mountains, where Chief Walker was giving gold to the Mormon church, and since then, people have been trying to find that. Well, I'd never heard of that before, and it intrigued me because it happened to be in the areas that I used to do a lot of hunting, elk hunting, deer hunting. And some of the things they was talking about is some of the things I'd seen while I was hunting, and I had no idea it had to deal with the Spanish. And so I was just instantly hooked.
And you've been ruined ever since.
I have.
So, you know what's funny? So we just had this Moon Lake gathering out there, and that was quite the shindig. That was my first year out there. But you did that tour, Del Bascom, and I had to have his book.
Ah,
And, so I bought his book out there. I knew he only had a limited supply, and somebody told me he only had a limited supply. So I wanted to make sure I was one of the very first ones there to get it. So I got his book. And then somebody else wanted it, and they said, well, he said, I'm out of them. So I said, I'll sell mine. And somebody says, I'll give you $50 for it right now.
really?
I thought, I ought to sell it, and then I could order one on Amazon when I got home.
Yeah.
But then I thought, no, I'll keep it, and I'll have him sign it. So I get home, and what do I have? I already had his book.
That's funny.
Now I got 2 of them.
Well, and you got one signed.
Yeah. But you were talking about. Oh no, that's not it. Where's it at? I thought I had it here. Oh, right here. The Roads Mine.
Yep.
The Roads Mine.
Lost Roads mine.
So, there's another one on the Roads Mine.
Oh man, you're a Utah treasure hunter.
No, I come from Utah, I don't tell too many people that, but I was born in Utah.
Where at?
I was born in a little town called Murray. I grew up in Kearns, Kearns Granger, which is West Valley. So my dad worked at Kennecott. Everybody worked at Kennecott, and they wanted to get me involved with that. I said, no way. I'm white collar. I'm not getting involved with dirt stuff. And that I'd make a mistake.
I had the same thing when I was a kid. Everybody that I knew, their dads worked at Geneva Still. It was a still mill, and I thought, man, there ain't no way I'm going to work at Geneva Still. And I got in the electrical industry, and back in '87, I think it was, that there was no work around. The construction had dried right up. And unless you wanted to go back east, and I didn't want to travel back east, so there was a job opening. They were starting that steel mill back up. There was job opening, so I went and applied to it. And I was so embarrassed to tell anybody I worked there, because I had 2 goals in life. One was to never own a Volkswagen. The second one was not to work at Geneva Steel, and I never owned the Volkswagen. All my friends did. They tried to get me to own one, but I ended up working at Geneva Steel, and I was embarrassed I worked there. But after a while, I thought, man, this is a great job, great benefits, close to home. So
no, there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm assuming you've been out looking for the the Roads Mine and all of that type of stuff.
So I have, and then the Lost Roads mine, there's more than just one mine. The Spaniards were in the Uinta Mountains, and there's over 100 mines that they had out there. Caleb Rhodes and Thomas Rhodes, they had 7 mines that they was getting the gold out of, but there was 100 of them out there. But what happened was the Spaniards, they enslaved the Indians, they worked them to death. For some funny reason, the Indians didn't like that program. So they revolted against them, killed them all off, chased them all out of there, and took the gold. They took the mines, whatever it took, the tribe, whatever it took. If it took years, if it took, they obliterated all trace of that, because they didn't want them Spaniards coming back and enslaving their people again. So, That's why this stuff is buried out there and hard to find. But with erosion, some things are sinking. The tunnels are sinking. And different things like that. And then some of the family members that was ran out had maps, and they came back and started finding some of this stuff and leaving marks and things like that. So yeah.
Dale did say one thing that I found kind of interesting, and that's when he was talking about they left clues not only for them but for their kids and their ancestors and stuff like that to later find. So I thought, that made more sense to do that. So I've been trying to find.
So they did leave the clues, but the problem is time has obliterated a lot of those clues. A lot of the markings that were on pine trees. We've had forest fires. We've had the pine beetle killing the trees. We've had the loggers logging. You had erosion. Just like up to Moon Lake. There was some great signs, trees, and all that. But when the fire happened, then big flash flood came through and destroyed a lot of things. And the flash floods and that, covers up some of the trails. Back in the late 1800s, when Caleb and Thomas Rhodes was still looking for this, the early 1900s, them trails were still barely visible. To us today, they're harder to see. And it's like, back in the early 80s when I first started tracking down the Spaniards, I found some big old pine trees that had some follow markers on, Spanish follow markers, and they were so old that the symbols had completely, the bark on the tree had completely grown back around it. You could see barely the shadow on the tree of what it was. And I thought first it was just a shadow of, I didn't think it was anything, but for the heck of it, I followed it. And a couple hundred yards later, I found another one, and then I found another, and then I found another one. And I was able to follow that for so far. And then I lost it. I couldn't find it anymore. But then were taking me somewhere. But they were so old that if I hadn't just noticed that just kind of the shadow on the tree, because that it had completely grown over and you couldn't tell.
So you followed one to the treasure. That's a good one. And then I lost it. I lost the treasure.
I never made it to the treasure. Never made it to the treasure. I was following the trail and then I lost the trail. So.
Yeah, I tell people that too.
Well, you know what? You're always got to be a treasure hunter, never be a treasure finder.
So let me ask you this question here. There's a couple books here out. Lost Treasures, this one here. And it talks about the Spaniards, and it gives you, I think that's the one, isn't it? That shows you the trails where they come in. Oh, maybe not.
There's several of those old books like that are out there. And early on, I determined that the maps, the stories in these books, several things was going on with them. One, either the author exhausted his research so much that he never could find anything that he finally decided to release it, or they're not telling the full clues. And even if they did and you happen to find something, everybody and their dog's looking for them exact treasures in them books. So I purposely did not go after any of them treasures that are in them books unless I had other information, other accounts, other journals, others to back them up. If it wasn't for that, I never followed them books at all.
But what about like taking several of them and looking at them all and piecing them all together, because they're not all exactly alike. They differentiate a lot. You say the author puts some of their own twist and their own theories into some of these, books here. But here's a question I got. So this one's on Arizona, of course, but they show you the trails of the Spanish when they came in. And then there's another one of Rich Hill. I'm sure you've heard of Rich Hill. And it tells you some of the maps too when they come in. But so this is what trigs me. If you mine in Arizona, there's only fine gold. That's all we ever find. I mean, in Utah, we only find fine gold in Utah. There's no big nuggets and stuff like that. Nevada, Arizona, lots of big nuggets all over. But yet, why did the Spanish leave all of these states to come to Utah to get the fine gold, but yet they found the big gold someplace? So what drew them to Utah and not to the other states?
So you're right. The majority of the gold in Utah is fine flour gold. But every now and again, there are areas that has gold. I back when I first started Spanish treasure hunting, I ran into a guy and he showed me a rock that he'd picked up off the Indian reservation, and he couldn't remember where he got it. He exactly where he got it. He was taken in there by a friend, and he picked it up and showed it to me, and it looked like a piece of volcanic pumice. It was kind of a brownish grayish, and it was clear full of little gold BBs, about the size of your BB gun. You know, you could visibly see them. And I've heard stories that there's big chunks of gold out there, but it's in small areas. You know, these mountains in Utah, these Uinta Mountains, they're newer mountains that they haven't had time to erode like yours in Arizona and that. And so they're still where they've pushed up through the ground, where they're still there. You know, it's a small area. It's not spread out widespread, you know, with like you have the others. But the reason the Spaniards came there is they was looking for Montezuma's treasure. And when they came to Utah, they was following what they thought Montezuma's treasure was, his trail, and they followed it, and they got into the Uinta Mountains, and they had one of these, they got in a skirmish with one of the Ute Indians, and they got one of them that they'd killed, and they seen he had a leather sack around his neck, and they opened it up, and there was 2 gold nuggets in there. And they wanted to know where them gold nuggets were. And so the medicine man, he knew where these were. As he was getting it, they would give these nuggets to these braves as they passed the rite of passage into manhood. That was one of the things that they got, was 2 gold nuggets out of the sacred mine, which the sacred mine is what Chief Waukera gave to Brigham Young, the Mormons. So
Dennis says, has Terry ever found treasures with Holly before?
With who?
Holly Rimkus.
I've never been out treasure hunting with Holly. I know who Holly is, and she's a pretty smart girl, and she's always out exploring. So I haven't ever found any treasure with Holly, but she's always out there looking. And that's what it takes. If you're going to find something, and you don't do it sitting watching TV, you don't do it reading those books. You do it by going out and exploring. And Holly does that.
Yeah. Okay, so that leads to another very interesting. Let's switch gears in a couple of these books, like this book.
Okay.
And one you're very familiar with, this one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. So now let's say, like, since you're so familiar, this is what I've been doing lately. So go out and do this here. Now here's 2 pictures. Let's see if I can put them on there. Taken different times. You see one, there's nothing on that one, but this one here has whatever you want to call it.
Something, yeah.
Okay. Now, could that be something? Maybe not. Don't know. Here's another. Now, this is interesting. Okay, so taken different times of the day, nothing there. You start to see something, a little line start to appear right there. Okay, now it's starting to get a little more prominent. And now it's really prominent. Now, is that treasure?
So you always got to be cautious on that, because you could get glare onto your camera. But you know, that's what the Spaniards used to do. They used to set up scouts on different peaks, and they'd watch. And it's in the evening, in the dusk, at certain times, in the certain atmospheric conditions, you know, a treasure. Let's see, Manuel Ortiz, he describes it's the best. You know, when you got a treasure, the precious metals they're buried in the ground, over time, your acid rains, your folic acids, your nitric acids, they go down into the ground, and they hit these precious metals, and they attack them. They don't attack them they don't eat them away or anything like that, but it creates a gas off of them. Them gases will percolate up out of the ground. And then when the atmospheric conditions are just right, you can see them with your naked eye, kind of like the aurora borealis. Same type of a thing, only it's with these precious metals. And so the Spaniards, it said that the Spaniards, they would triangulate. They'd get on different peaks, and that these guys on these peaks to just watch for these treasure flares, and I used to think, yeah, right, these treasure flares, that's hocus pocus, it's not a real thing. But I used to sell and rent metal detectors and prospecting equipment back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I had a Spaniard or a Mexican guy come to my house, and he couldn't speak English. He brought his boy with him to translate. And he wanted to know if I had a metal detector that would pick up a pot of gold or a pot of silver. And I can't remember the exact, if it was 3 feet or 4 feet deep. And so we went in my backyard. I dug a hole 3 or 4 feet deep. I don't remember. I had the tape measure there and everything, and he had a box. I'm going to say it was probably 12 inches wide and 6 inches deep and maybe 8 inches wide and 12 inches long. He had it clear full of old Spanish silver coins. And we wrapped it in plastic, and then we buried it. And I got a 2 box to see if it would pick that up, and the 2 box picked that thing up just perfect. Well, I asked him, what's the story? Why, if he's already found it, what's he need a 2 box for? Well, he told me that in the town that he lived, that the townspeople always seen these lights dancing out of the ground certain times, and everybody was scared of them. They thought it was ghosts. And he wanted to know what this was, because it was always in the same spot. Whenever the townspeople seen it, it was always in the same spot. So he dug it up and found this pot of silver coins. And so he's had words of other of these treasure flares percolating up. So he was wanting to buy a 2 box so he could go see if he can find them, because he didn't know exactly where they're at, but he knows the general area. So
I know you were out there when the mystery hole was out there. We ran a 2 box over that, but we didn't get anything. Let's see what's in here. Treasure Tom.
Treasure Tom.
Red. Quick question. Decent spot. There's a lot of places out. I've dry washed all over the western United States. I've even dry washed in Utah too. No, you ain't going to get rich. You ain't going to get rich dry washing. You ain't going to get rich prospecting at all. I always tried to at least get 1 to 2 grains per bucket. That was always what I wanted. If I could get 2 grains a bucket of dirt, I needed 440. Let's see. There's 480 grains to an ounce of gold. So if I got a grain, I would need 480 buckets. If I got 2 grains, I would need 440 buckets. So you do the math on that. So if you can at least get 1 to 2 grains per bucket, you're good. Mike Bush, Andrew, Jack and Terry, what current treasure hunts would each of you like to do?
There's several I'm working on. Some I don't want to talk about, but one I can talk about it, because I kind of did a show with it on the History Channel, Beyond Oak Island, where I'm looking for a door, and so on that show it left that we drilled a hole and we're looking for this cavern that Tom and his brother was lost down in a cave, and they'd been down there all day, and they were lost, and their flashlights were dying. So they turned all the flashlights off except for one, so that they could save on batteries. Because if they're down there and they lose their lights, man, their history, they're done. You can't see to get out. And so Tom, he's getting nervous. He's scared. And so he shuts off his light. He had his light on. He shuts it off. He kneels down and prays, and he says, "God, help us get out of here if and I'll never come back again." And so, and then he said his little prayer and he stood up and he turned his flashlight on, and it just happened to hit an arrow carved into the ceiling, and it pointed the way for him out. It was a hidden, it was hidden. You couldn't see the entrance, but that pointed. And so that got him out of there. And that was back in the early 70s. Well, Tom and his brothers never ever went back. And I'd heard about this story probably in the middle 2000s, maybe 2010, something like that. No, it was probably later than that. But I couldn't get access to that property. It was claimed up by somebody else. And with the History Channel wanting a story, this gave me perfect chance to make an agreement with the mine owner there. That mine there is supposedly the lost Josephine mine, where there's over $1 billion in gold and silver bars buried there behind a wooden door. Well, this wooden door that Tom and his brother, or they're lost, but they found this wooden door down there while they're lost, and they didn't have time to check it out because they're lost. They're trying to find their way out. But this wooden door, they said, was elaborate. It was thick. It was perfectly. It was 8 foot tall, 7 foot wide. It was arched. It fit into the rock work perfectly. He says the only time he'd seen a craftsmanship like that or anything like that is when these old shows in the dungeons and in the castles and that, you know. Well, I'm wondering what's behind this door, because of the way, Bill, the Josephine mine says there's over $1 billion in gold and silver behind a wooden door. But I don't think this is that same wooden door. I think this is something else. But this is an eyewitness account of seeing a door, you know. The Josephine mine is stories, you know. There's a way, Bill, and all that. But they're just kind of stories. You don't know factual, but this is an eyewitness account of a wooden door. So with the History Channel, we went down there. Tom wouldn't go down and show us, so we're going where everything where we're going is fits right what Tom's telling me. But you know, we never found anything. So after the History Channel with that show is done, man, I want to find this door still. So I go back down there, and Tom's brother Tim, who was down there with Tom, he happened to see that show, and he says, "I never made that promise to God. I'll go down with you." You know, Tom won't go down, but his twin brother Tim didn't make that promise. So he goes down with us, and he says, "Hey, that wormhole you're going down, I promise you, we never went down that. I wouldn't go down that. Ain't no way. We was over here." So we go over to there, and in the cave, it sloughed off and filled up the area where he said we went. So we dug down and, you know, dug a lot, and started finding, you know, it looked like there could have been some tunnel stuffs, and you're crouched way over because the ceiling's just, you know, 3-4 feet off the ceiling where we're at, where the dirt is. And it looks like we got a tunnel, but we looked up, and there's some markings that was written with either a carbide lantern or a candle with the smoke or the carbide, and it's numbers and letters. And you know, I don't think that's Spanish or anything like that. Somebody did that, but I took a picture of that, and we showed it to Tim and Tom, and as they was driving home, they both remembered that when they come out of their wormhole, when they come out of being lost, they remember being on their back and looking up at the ceiling and seeing them as they came out. So I think we're close. But you're always close. You know, I've had my heart pounding so many times, and it always turns out to be nothing. But man, I have had my heart pounding quite a few times.
Oh, that would be. There's a guy that I've talked to out here that chased a lot of treasures, and he talks a lot about. He knows where a lot of them are, but you can't go near them because the government knows where they are, and every time you get close, I forgot what he called them. I call them Men in Black. They show up and chase you out of there. So I don't know, you know, what's all. Like I've read a book like that was showing you one time, if the trails are disturbed, they'll go back and repair the trail because they want everything to remain the same as it was. I don't know, but there's this area that we're in, you know, with Robert and Daryl, that we're out playing around looking.
Oh, yeah.
There's markings all over this area, so we're kind of exploring that. Where I know I found a treasure. I found this perfect hole and it went back, and then it opened up. Went in about 4 feet. It opened up, but it was empty. So somebody apparently already found that treasure. I'm thinking, but it was
Ah.
right below. It was right below this king's chair, what we called it. Had a bunch of writings on it and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But so we're exploring that area, trying to find a lot of stuff like that out there. But so
You know what?
go ahead.
One time I found an old tree that had it was dead, but it was still standing, and it had 21 slash marks on it from way high up. They had to stand on their horse to start them slash marks and bring them down the tree on this old pine tree. And I thought, and then there were some other markings on the back, and I thought, well, I think maybe this means 21 varas this direction. There's something. So I go 21. So I step off what I think's about 21 varas, and it's on a hillside, and there's this big boulder. And I'm thinking, well, there must be a treasure under this boulder. So I'm digging under it and trying to move this boulder, and I can't get it by myself. So I go get my brother, and we're digging under it. We got a big log. We're prying it up, throwing rocks under it, prying it up, throwing rock. Finally got it to roll, and I put my metal detector on it, and right under that big rock, it started going off like crazy. Man, my heart's pounding. I'm thinking, mother load, this is. But anyways, it was a bunch of old square nails, and I'm thinking, what the heck is square nails doing under this boulder on a hillside? So I went up the hill just a little bit, probably 10 feet farther, and dug down to the same layer where I was and started running into burnt wood and old square nails again. And then I go down to the bottom, and I look, and there I could see it. I could see that there was the foundation on the bottom. You could barely see the tops of the rocks of where the wall used to sit, and it came out. It was probably 30 feet long, and then it went back into the hillside. Well, somebody had burnt that roof down, destroyed that thing, and then put the mountain back to where it was, so you couldn't tell anything was there, and put big boulders and rocks there, so you could never ever tell anything was there again. So I'm thinking to myself, this might have been a Spanish mission, and this is where now the Indians took the whole summer and obliterated all trace of these Spaniards being here. And so I got my detector out, and I started detecting, and I found the inside clapper to a bell. I found the hammer to a flintlock gun. I found an iron arrowhead, a couple musket balls, and but no gold.
Okay, there's a couple questions. Let's see. So Dennis says, do you have any knowledge of KGC has gold buried in Utah?
I don't have any personal knowledge because I really haven't tracked down the KGC, but the KGC, what I do know, they got gold buried all over the United States and into Mexico, So, there's some people to think. I used to track down, and I still do, the mystery glyphs. I was hiking high in the mountains east of Provo, and I ran into what I call these mystery glyphs. They're a unique set of hieroglyphs that are neatly and painstakingly carved onto cliff walls, onto solid boulders. And when I first seen them, I thought, man, this is a Spanish treasure sign symbols, tell them where the treasure is. And then I went from that to thinking maybe it had to deal with Aztec treasure, and went to thinking it had to deal with the ancients and all kinds of things. But some of the people say that these are KGC treasure symbols, and that could make sense. That would be a reason that they could be there, because these are off the beaten path. They're off the beaten trail. And they're a code or something that's saying something. So who knows? I think the KGC treasure is buried all over the place. As the South was going to rise again, and they needed funds to do it, and so I think they stashed treasure all over the place so that they could have it to help fund their new war. And then the Spanish-American Revolution happened, and it kind of united the country and foiled all them plans.
What's the KGC stand for?
Knights of the Golden Circle. That was a Confederate secret society that, man, they wanted to, they wanted the South to rise again. There was going to be another civil war.
What's says Terry got acts as White Sands missile range to do any detecting ever?
I never been there, but I ended up with all Dr. Oren Swearingen's material on Doc Noss, the White Sands Range, Victoria Peak, and I had several videos, probably like 10 of them, that I had from Dr. Oren Swearingen on my YouTube channel, and Terry Delanis, who is Ova Noss's grandson, asked me to take them down because they was going to do this show. I forget what the name of the show's called. It's on Victoria Peak, White Sands Missile Range, and that. And one of the things, and I need to call him up and remind him, because one of the things he told me was they was going to try and get access back onto White Sands Missile Range, and said he would invite me. So I got to call him up and remind him of that.
Yeah, Aaron Childs just said Victoria Peak. Yeah, so.
Oh, that's right. It's lies, videotapes, something like that of Victoria Peak. You know, that's, you want to talk about a fascinating a treasure thing that went awry, and what the government did to the Noss family, and what the government took and all that, man. That is one heck of a fascinating treasure story of how the government, or not necessarily the government, people in the government got it for themselves. You know, it's a wild, crazy story.
So Nestor, I guess that's how you say it, Nestor C says, I spent every day going over your videos. I replay and replay. I work a lot, but my spare time is spent watching all of your videos, Terry. Thank you very much. It was very much enjoy it, sir. Appreciate you.
Geez, Nestor, I'm really liking you. Thank you. You know, because it started out my YouTube channel. I only did it because I started meeting the old time treasure hunters back right shortly after I started treasure hunting in '82. I started tracking down the old treasure hunters and talking to them, and then they started passing away, and I got so much good information out of them, but I got a lousy memory, so I started recording them. You know, in the '80s, the middle '80s, I started recording everybody I talked to, you know, and so I've released some of them onto my YouTube channel, and everybody says, man, the sound's terrible. You need new mics and da 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 da. Well, you know, these were recorded on cassette tapes over the phone or in person back in the '80s, you know, and I never ever planned. There was no YouTube. I never ever planned on sharing this with other people, but I had some people that said, hey, man, can you share this with me? And the only way I could figure out how to do it is because I started the Ancient Historical Research Foundation. We started having monthly lectures, and people couldn't make it to it. So they said, can you record it? Can you video it and put it on so that we can see it? So I'd record it and then I started the YouTube channel so that other people could see it. You know, it was never, one day I looked, man, there was 1,000 subscribers. I thought, that's crazy.
What is your YouTube channel for everybody, so they can go, if they're not your friends, they can go become?
Terry Carter Treasure Hunter. And a lot of them are kind of dumb, but you know, I tried to interview all the old timers before they passed away, because there's no way I could retell their story. There's no way you could retell their story. You know, they lived it. They tell their story in detail with emphasis, you know. And so, you know, it's best when you get the story right from the horse's mouth, man, to record it. Because history is being lost. When they're dead and gone, them stories are dead and gone, you know.
Oh, absolutely. So Nestor says, believe me, June is one of my favorites. May he rest in peace. So thank you so much. Yeah. One day dream watching them.
June was a great friend of mine, and he was a wealth of knowledge, and I recorded I got all kinds of recordings of him, but even then I never even got all of what he knows. You know, he started when he was in his early 20s, and he had some money, and he went and contacted the old Utes, everybody. He contacted all them old timers that he could get a hold of, plus the Indians, and he was a wealth of knowledge, and man, a lot of history passed away with him.
Yeah, that's what I need to do. Let's take a real quick break. Can we do that? hang with us a second. If you got to run away for a moment, you got a moment to run away.
Good.
Okay, we'll be right back, folks.
ICMJ's Prospecting and Mining Journal is the only monthly gold prospecting magazine published in the United States and is the most comprehensive and respected magazine about gold prospecting on the market today. With readers in all 50 states, it features articles on detecting, high banking, dredging, small-scale operations, assaying, basic geology, how to read the land, regulations, and more. Our monthly Ask the Experts column is answered by true experts. It features answers to readers' questions on processing, detecting, geology, and any other questions you may have related to finding and recovering gold and other precious metals. The Mining Journal features the most extensive selection of equipment, mining properties, services, and more, and a classified section featuring over 20 times more new and used items than the nearest competitor. The Mining Journal has been in continuous publication since 1931. A full 12 issues is available for just $27.95, and discounts are available for 2- and 3-year subscriptions. And an online subscription gives you access to over 3,000 articles going back nearly 20 years. Our purpose is to teach you how to find more gold. ICMJ's Prospecting and Mining Journal is the tool you need to succeed. It's time to raise your gold prospecting knowledge to the next level with ICMJ's Prospecting and Mining Journal. Give us a call at 831-479-1500 or visit www.icmj.com. That's www.icmj.com.
The Mining Journal. Okay, there's something that this company, Dr. Ortec or whatever I think their name is, something like that, sent me this cool knife.
Cool.
You know,
one of them digging knives.
Yeah, and everybody has them. Garrett's has them. White's have them. Everybody has them, but they tend to cost a lot of money. These ones don't cost a lot of money. So they sent this to me and they asked me if I would use it in one of my videos. I said, sure, I'll use it in video. If you're going to send me a knife, why not?
Heck
And
yeah.
they said, well, we'll send you one of those tea shovels too if you'll use it. I said, okay, cool, send me that. So that's on order. But I asked them though, can I get some of these just to give away? And they said, sure, we'll send you one. You can give one away a month. So stay tuned because I'll start giving some of these away here. So anyway.
Nice.
Okay. Anyway, so back to, let's see, I suppose, okay, so somebody said, Craig Carter said he was born in Utah.
Geez, I went to school for Craig Carter. You didn't go to Pleasant Grove, did you, Craig Carter?
Hey, I lived in Pleasant Grove once upon a time.
Did you?
I did.
Go Vikings.
I don't know about Viking, but I lived right there. I think the road I lived on was Cherry Hill, I think it was. It was a dead-end street right there in Pleasant Grove. And the big insurance company, whatever that guy's name was, Brock was the buddy I used to hang out with. I forget what his name. It was on the big building up there. It had this insurance company's name. It may have been Linden. That was the town right next to Pleasant Grove, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Linden, is that what it was? So it was right there someplace. The big insurance company. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, I used to run with his kid out there in those days. But that was a long time ago. Many years ago. Let's see. Okay, so Craig, did you go to school with Terry? No, not Pleasant Grove. Grew up in Ogden. Oh, Ogden.
There was a lot of Spanish treasure hunters in the Ogden area. That's kind of the area that June grew up in. And there was a lot of them guys that had secret maps, and I don't know why Ogden was a hot spot, but there was a lot of them guys that had a lot of secrets of the Uinta Mountains in the Ogden area.
Huh. Wow. That's amazing. I remember one time going to Utah. We had a family reunion down, my mother was born down in Panguitch. So we had a family reunion down in Panguitch, and we left there and we went to I think it was Marysville is right there someplace if I remembered right. They had a claim in the GPA magazine, and we go up this claim, and as we're playing around across the dirt road was this mine shaft. And so we went into this mine shaft, and on the entrance they had, I didn't know what it was, but it was a sensor that I guess maybe somebody puts up, the government or somebody puts up to check for gases. Anyway, I took that sensor, but it had railroad tracks coming out of it. So we went back in there quite a ways. We probably went back 100 yards. And that's as far as I wanted to go back, me and my dad. But my brother and his two kids, they kept on going. And they said they came into a room that opened up as big as your house. And then it had a shaft that went up, a ladder went up, and a ladder went down. They went up the ladder in another big room. And he said, this thing just kept on going. The whole mountain was full of this, just opened up. And I just thought you could get lost in there, or die or something. But I always wanted to go back and check that place out, but never have.
They had the sensor right there for you to pick up as you went in?
Yeah. Well, they probably just
cool.
They stuck it in the rocks. Probably they were going to come back probably to check it, to see.
Okay.
But I didn't know what it was, and so I took it.
That's pretty cool, because you never know. There could be some deadly gases in them things. And so, yeah, if you're going in them old mines like that, you do need them 4 gas monitors and make sure the oxygen's good and all that, because you never know. That's why them old timers, man, they'd carry the canary around with them, because it'd kill the canary before them. And they knew if the canary killed over, they needed to get out of Dodge right now.
Yeah. I heard somebody told me that now that mine has an iron door on it that you can't go into it anymore. That's all blocked off or something.
That Marysville has some pretty cool things in there. They got some of the old smelters and some old Arastas and things like that. That was quite the mining town there.
Mining, not Spaniards?
Well, I don't know. The Spaniards made the Arastas, and so I don't know. If it was one of the 49ers that made Arasta too, or if there was the miner, if there was the Spaniards. I would think probably it was the Spaniards that made the Arastas, but I don't know. That's what happened to a lot of these mines. That the Spaniards was working them, and the Indians chased them out, and then later on the 49ers or whoever came in and found some of these old Spanish mines and claimed them and started working them, and then they brought in more modern equipment, the stamp mills and things like that.
So now these guys are just screwing with you now. Now, this always confused me. DJEDI, Jedi. But when I look at that, I keep wanting to say the Jedi. It takes me a moment to Jedi.
Jedi.
Yeah. Anyway, he wants to know if your favorite candy is M&M's.
I at the Moon Lake gathering, him and Mike, and I don't know for sure who got it. They had a little red bag for me with stuffs in it, a T-shirt and a light, and a bag of M&Ms, and I do a lot of driving, a lot of traveling with my work. My work sends me all over the country. I work on mines and power plants, so I do a lot of work on mines. But I got tired of drinking Coke to stay awake, and because I always couldn't ever drink enough, and I'd be clear full of Coke and or Dr. Pepper, and so I found that if I ate M&Ms, it must be the chocolate in there, must have caffeine or something. But that chocolate, I eat them M&Ms, and it keeps me awake, so I can travel, 8 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours without having to pull over and sleep or something. So.
Nestor says, "What's the biggest nuggets you guys have found or held?"
The biggest one I've held. So I was in your area. I was not exactly sure where it was. What's that lake there where the London Bridge is?
Lake Havasu.
Lake Havasu. I was outside of Lake Havasu probably an hour, and I don't remember exactly where I was at, but I was out there looking for gold nuggets. But it was an area where Patton had trained his troops there, and so there was all kinds of 50 caliber artillery shells, bullets. I mean, it was littered with all kinds of brass like that, And So I that's all I found was stuffs like that. But there happened to be another guy out there, and I got talking with him, and he had some kind of a fangled. This was back in the early '90s. I had a Tesoro Lobo, and he had some kind of a fangled metal detector I'd never seen before. And I was talking with him, and anyways, we went searching again, and he was the side of me, and he threw something in front of my search coil, and I went over it, and I went and it beeped, and I picked it up. Man, it was a 1 pound gold nugget fit in the palm of my hands.
Wow.
I said, where did you get that? 1 pound.
Wow.
And this was back in the early '90s. This was back in the early '90s, and he told me he just sold one bigger than that for 10 grand. This is in the early '90s, and he said that he got it in Australia. He says he goes to Australia 6 months out of the year, finds enough gold that with his metal detector that he didn't have to do, he didn't have to, that's how he made his living, just 6 months a year. And then he just played around the rest. But that was cool seeing and holding that. After that, man, I always wanted to go to Australia. But I have a friend, he's passed away now, so I can tell this story. He found 400 gold bars, and the smallest one was 12 pounds. He let me hold that one. It wasn't pure gold. It was only like 50-something% gold, and the rest of it had a lot of copper in it, and then some silver, iron, and other stuff. But that was pretty cool. But when I did some work at Kennecott. I was working in their gold room, and they just finished pouring some gold bars, and their gold bars was only 24 pounds. And this is back when gold was $1,000 an ounce. Kennecott's, they make theirs 0.9999 pure. All the other mines that I've worked at, they don't. They get them to 80-90%, and then they send them off to the refiners to get them pure. But Kennecott's makes theirs pure. And I was in there when they was just finished pouring some and cooling them down, and then they polished them up. And they said, "You want to hold one of these?" And I go, "Yeah." So they let me hold one, and they says, "You're holding $440,000 right there." That was back when gold was about $1,000 an ounce. But just last year, I was working at one of the Barrick mines in Nevada, and I was in their gold room, and they let me hold one of them. It was 80, I can't remember, it was 80 or 85 pounds. Theirs isn't pure. Theirs is like, 90% pure, something like that, 80, 89, 90, something like that. They told me you're holding $1.3 million right there.
Wow. That'd be, yeah. No, I remember years ago, this had to be, I don't remember how it was. It was in the 90s. I was staking a mining claim, and I had to walk up this hill, and I had a PVC pulse, and I have a metal detector, and I'm kind of going up the hill, and I get a target, and I had a hard time getting it. But anyways, it was 3/4 of an ounce of gold.
Cool.
And so I spent like an hour right there in this area. I didn't find any more. And by now it's starting to get dark. So I took that PVC pulse and I chucked it up the hill as far as I could. And I said, close enough.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, that was the biggest piece I found.
So I don't do a lot of gold hunting. I would like to do more of that. But I'm always looking for the, I want the big Spanish gold bars, but I never find any.
No. These are just pictures.
Cool.
We got this claim. It's up by Lake Mead. In probably 2 weeks time, I found 75 nuggets. And they're on this nice picture that I got. We had pulled a lot of gold up there. Cool. And out here, I was using a gold monster, and I'm just going up the hill, and I get this signal, and I dig it out. And it was this big piece. To me, it looked like caliche, just a big white rock. It's about this thick. And so in the video, I act like I chucked it, but I really didn't. I got back to the truck and washed it down. You could see a vein of gold all the way down it.
Nice.
So I took it to the guy in Havasu that owned a store there. He weighed it out and all that. And he said there's probably close to 20 grams of gold in it. And I said, you want to buy it? He said, no, because it's ugly. So I said, okay. So I put it in acid and it got rid of everything. There was 18 grams of gold in that sucker, man.
Cool.
So I said, that paid for my gold monster.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. But no, so my 6,000 has been paid for with gold I have found. My 7,000 has not been paid for because I found a meteorite with it, but that was it. Anyways. Okay, Dennis says, have you ever been to Skinwalker or Blind Frog ranches yet?
Yeah, I've got stories that I can't tell. So Blind Frog Ranch. One of the things on the Lost Roads mine is the sacred mine, and there's a thing that Towat's guards over it. And Towat's is a natural rock formation that looks like a human face or something like that. And back in 2000, I don't remember now. 2008, I really can't remember. 2000, I don't remember the date. Anyways, June, my friend June, who passed away, the old Indians told him where the sacred mine was, and so we went to the area, and we went and we figured where we found something where something was. We found a depression in the ground. I bounced on it. You could tell it bounced like maybe there was logs under it or something. And so then the snow hit, so it drove us out of there. So we was going to come back. Now the next year, we come back the next year, and there's a gate on it and no trespassing signs, And so I jumped the fence anyway, and I go in there, and they tore the whole mountain apart and had a big hole dug and everything. And I'm thinking, man, they know about this gold here. And so I called the guy. He had his phone number, no trespassing. I called him. It was Dwayne Ollinger, and I told him, I says, I know you're looking for gold. What Utah treasure hunters told you to dig in this area? Because I think you're digging in the wrong area. And he says, no, we're not digging for treasure. We're just doing some, and I forget what he told me, but it had nothing to do with treasure. But I found out later that they were looking for treasure, but they're not digging in the same area that me and June thought that there was something. So that's Blind Frog Ranch. There's some things going on there that I can't talk about. Skinwalker Ranch, a friend of mine, man, I got a big story about skin. You probably heard it, Jack, but I don't really want to tell that nationally.
Okay, well, if it's a secret, but you can say anything you want.
It's not a real secret. I've been invited to Skinwalker Ranch before anybody knew who owned Skinwalker Ranch. Brandon Fugel is a friend of mine. He helped me start the Ancient Historical Research Foundation. And then because of work and everything, he had to bow out. But he contacted me and told me that he owned it back in 2017. He told me he bought it and get ready to go down the deepest, darkest rabbit hole I've ever been on. But he says, I'll tell you that what I'm doing, but you probably got to promise not to tell anybody. And so I promised, okay. And then he tells me I just bought Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm thinking, man, why would you buy Skinwalker Ranch? I knew he was in. He's a guy that just wants to know the truth, whatever the truth is. That's why he helped me form the Ancient Historical Research Foundation. We wanted to know the truth about these ancients, the giants and things like that. He just wanted to know the truth, whether it's false or real. He didn't care what one way or the other. He just wanted to know what the truth was, Well, that's what he said about Skinwalker Ranch. He just wanted to know what the truth is. And there's a big, long story of why and how he bought it and all that. But to date, I've never been to Skinwalker Ranch. And of course, all this happened before the show. And anyways, there's some interesting things that I don't want to talk about.
It's the adventure that counts. There's no fun in it if you find the treasure trove. I found a Spanish heart in a tree, and let me tell you, it's the stories I hear that keep me going one day, Jerry.
There's a lot of great stories out there, and there's a lot of interesting things out there. And unless you go out and explore, first research, it's 95% research, and then you got to do the exploring and put in the time, But when you find that something that most, that's the thing about treasure hunting. You know, you get to know the old timers. You'll hear stories that most people will never get to hear. You'll see things while you're out exploring that most people will never get to see, and you'll meet people, that and have some great relationships. And that's really the treasure. The people you meet, the things you get to see, and the places you get to go. That's really the treasure. Anything else is just icing on the cake.
That place you were talking about earlier where the gold was, that's down Franconia Road. That's north of Lake Havasu. You go up there to I-40, and then you cut off of Franconia and you go down. That's where there's thousands and thousands of airplanes shot all over practice field, and you get them 50 caliber bullets. They're all over up there.
Oh, I got all kinds of. It must have been more than just airplanes, because I got all kinds of 50 caliber bullets and 50 caliber brass.
Well, you do. You can find the brass, and you find the clips and little pieces of wire.
Clips. They're scattered everywhere. Yeah. But I'd heard that gold had been found there. There's that alluvial fan right there, and but you got to sift through a lot of brass.
Oh, well, further down there is the Havasu Gold Seekers. They got a base camp down there too, and that's also a big area known for meteorites. So a lot of people.
Oh, really?
They hunt for meteorites up there.
Cool.
So, what was I just going to say? I had a question and I got sidetracked. Should I give something away? Let's give something away.
Give something away.
Okay, everybody, this is what we're going to do. So everybody knows stuff like, let's say what, like what's this sound? What's this sound? Everybody knows what that sound is, right? That's obvious, huh? Or like this sound. You guys probably recognize those sounds, right? You know what they are, Terry?
Yeah, it's a toilet flushing and a coin dropping. Yeah. But I don't know what size of coin that is.
Okay, but what about now a sign like, so I've got some stuff to give away. Here's what we can do. I've got like a 3D printer weigh bolt. It's a heart. It's a weigh bolt. I got a weigh bolt that has the funnel on it, so you weigh out and then you can pour it in your little vial. I've got.
That's cool looking.
I got a book, 30 Best Kept Secrets to Finding Treasures. I got this book. I got a chest. You can have what's in the chest, or you can have what's in the envelope. You get your choice. The first one that can answer correctly what this sound is. Let me see if it's this one here. That's a tough one, huh? Do it again. Okay.
That is a tough one.
First one that can do that. Fart. Everybody's going to say fart. I knew that. That's what I would say too. It's not a fart though. It's not a balloon. It's not a fart. So you guys can keep guessing. We'll keep talking. I'll try to let's see. Outdoorsman 007. You guys are close. Man, there's a couple of you are close. Okay, Buck Rackley, I'm going to give it to you. Buck Rackley. Let me find that again. I'm going to give it to you. This was the sound. Where to go? Right here. It's a needle on a record player scratching. Buck Rackley, you got it. You said that's see, some of you guys were close because, Guy, needle scratch. See, so Outdoorsman said a scratch. Guy said needle scratching. Outdoorsman said record scratch. So, okay, Outdoorsman, I'm going to have to give it to you. You were first. Record scratch. That's what it was. So what you got to do is send me, you got to be in the United States. I don't want to ship something to Canada or to Australia, It costs for prices to ship stuff is so. Anyway, send me an email, goldfeverradio@yahoo.com, or send me a private message of your shipping address. So, what would you want? You want the book? What's in the chest? The weigh boat? Or what's in the envelope? You can have your choice. What do you want? Tell me what you want. Daryl says, Daryl wants you to tell the story of Jim Hyatt.
That must be my old buddy, Daryl Lane.
Yeah, he says, it was up here too, I saw. He wants you, have Terry tell the story about Jim Hyatt.
Jim Hatt.
Jim Hatt.
You let me know when you're ready to tell it. I'll tell it.
Go ahead. Go right ahead. Start to tell.
Okay. So I got invited to go down to the Dutch Hunters Rendezvous, with Wayne Tuttle and Frank Augustine and them guys in your area down there in Apache Junction. And this has been a few years ago. I can't remember how long ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So I go down there and meet all them guys. And while I was down there, I won a ticket to the Lost Dutchman Museum there, just out there outside of Apache Junction. So I go to the museum there, and I'm going around and looking. They got a lot of stuff to deal with the Lost Dutchman, and then they got an old stamp mill there, and a lot of cool things, and it was pretty cool. But I'd gone through it, and then I was leaving, and just as I walked out of the door, I'm starting to head home. And this older gentleman, he stops me, and he's got a name tag, so I know he works there. And he says, "Where are you from, young man?" Well, at the time, I was doing some work in Wyoming. I was working on a power plant there. So during the weekdays, I lived in Wyoming, and on the weekends, I was back in Utah. So I says, "Well, I'm from Utah, but I live during the weekdays. I live in Wyoming." And he says, "What are you doing in Wyoming?" I says, "I'm working on a power plant there." And he says, "Oh man, I've worked on that power plant and all the other power plants." And so I'm thinking, well, if this guy's from Wyoming, he must have a treasure story to tell. He's come here looking for the Lost Dutchman gold mine. So I'm thinking, if he's got a great story to tell, I want to hear it. And if it's great, I want to video it for YouTube. And so, but I want to know what his story is first. So I says, what brings you to Arizona? You ain't the guy that's got the secret Lost Dutchman map, are you? And he says, no. He says, I've looked for it, but really I'm more of a historian. But I came here because of the climate. I got tired of the cold in Wyoming, and so I came here because of the climate. I says, well, you got to have a story. Tell me what your story is. So he starts telling me this story of how he'd heard that there was these coke ovens that the pioneers made and out in the middle of nowhere. And on the mountain above it, there was a heart. And he wanted to see these coke ovens, but he really wanted to see this heart on the mountain above it. And he couldn't find anybody that knew where it is. And finally, he found somebody, a guy by the name of Salvador Delgadillo. Well, it just so happened that I just met Salvador at the Dutch Hunters Rendezvous. And Salvador had a lot of great, interesting stories to tell. And you could tell that Salvador had become friends with all the old-time treasure hunters. He worked with all of them. So he knew quite a bit of stuff, And so he tells me that Salvador tells him he'll take him out there. So they go out there. This is the middle of the summer, and they go out there, and this guy's Jeep or his vehicle, whatever he had, I can't remember. But they go out and they see the coke ovens, and then they see the heart on the mountain. On their way out, he gets a flat tire. So he changes the tire. Then he gets another flat tire. He doesn't have a spare, so he's riding on a rim. And then he gets another flat tire. So he's got 2 flat tires. And they had to go down a wash and up this steep hill, and he gets up it a little bit, and then they get stuck. They had to get out, dig their way out, and then they back up, and they get a big run for it, and they get 3/4 of the way, and they really get stuck, man. They can't dig their way out. And he goes into detail about this story. He's reliving this story to me, how it's so hot, but to save on fuel, he's only turning on the car every now and again for the air conditioning. And when a car wasn't on and it got hot, Salvador go lay under some shade that was there. And he goes on to a big story. Finally, nobody's coming, and they're stranded there. They're a long ways away. So when it gets starts to get dark and it's cooled off, they decide they better start hiking out. So they all night long, they hike out. And finally, early in the morning, they heard some noise on this bluff. So they climbed to the top of it, and there's a dirt road up there, and there's a motorhome up there. There's an older couple up there. And this older couple feeds him breakfast. And then they take him to town. He gets with his buddy. He buys new tires. His buddy takes him out there. They put new tires on, get the Jeep out, and the story's over. And it was a great story, but not one I thought would be great for YouTube. Man, I wished I would have recorded that story, you know. I never thought any more of it. But 4 months later, I happened to be back out into Apache Junction, and I ran into Salvador, and I was out there. I got an email from a guy who him and his buddies was out by the Gila River on their motorcycles. They just went cross country. They was a long ways from any roads or anything, and they was by the Gila River, and his buddy started spinning these donuts in the sand there by the river, and it flips this old medallion. It looks kind of like it's an Egyptian medallion. And I'm kind of interested, you know, if the Egyptians in the Grand Canyon and things like that. I'm interested in out of place archaeology stuff, you know. So I want to know more about this. So I was in Apache Junction. I asked Salvador. I said, Salvador, has there been any Egyptian artifacts found out in this area? He says, well, there was this one guy who found a cave clear full of either Egyptian or Oriental artifacts. He says, I don't know exactly where the cave is, but I know the area. He says, come on, let's go. So we get my truck and we go out there. And as we're driving way out there, he says, stop, look, man, there's the coke ovens that the pioneers built. And there's a heart on the mountain above it. And when he said that, it clicked. I remembered this old boy telling me the story that Salvador, him goes out there and they get stuck. And I told Salvador, I said, man, I met a buddy of yours. He says, you took him out here and you guys got stranded. It's got flat tires. He says, oh, yeah. And he started telling me some things. And I says, yeah, this guy told me that. And he told me this also. And he'd go, yeah, anyways, we're going back and forth. And it's the same guy. And I says, yeah, I met him like 3 or 4 months ago. And he looks at me funny, Salvador does. And he says, there ain't no way you could have met him. He says, it must have been somebody who heard that story and they're lying to you. They're telling you that it was them, but it really wasn't them, because that's Jim Hatton. He died 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. And I'm thinking, no way. There ain't no way. This guy did not look dead to me. You know, so I'm thinking Salvador's wrong. I'm thinking this guy is still alive and Salvador don't know it. Salvador just thinks he's dead. So anyways, I ended up at Goldfield Ghost Town, and I'd met Bob Schust, and you know, at the Dutch Hunters Rendezvous. He owns the Goldfield Ghost Town, and he's part owner of it and the mayor of it. And so I was there in the saloon there and talking with Bob, and I says, Bob, do you know Jim Hatt? He says, oh yeah, Terry, you'd have liked him. He was some kind of an engineer, and he worked on all them power plants like you are out there in Wyoming. And I think, yeah, this is the same guy. He says, yeah, I met Jim here 3 or 4 months ago, and he looks at me funny. He says, you couldn't have. I says, why? He says, Jim Hatt's been dead for 8 to 10 years, and now my brain's racing because Jim Hatt did not look dead to me. So I go back to the museum. I'm going to find Jim Hatt because he, you know, it was just like me and you talking. He was not dead. He looked real. So I go in there and I'm looking around for him and I don't see him anywhere. And so I go up to the guy at the desk and I says, is Jim Hatt here? And the guy goes, I don't know who that is. I said, yeah, he's got a name tag. He's tour guide or something here. He does something here. He says, you know, I've been here for 4 years, but I don't know anybody by that name. But sometimes we have volunteers that come here and they, I don't know who all the volunteers are. So let me go find out. So he goes and asks somebody in the back, and he comes back. He says, oh yeah, Jim Hatt, he used to help us out here. He helped start the museum, he says, but he's been dead for 8 to 10 years. I thought, wow, my mind was blown, and I wished I had heard his story because I don't know. You know, he looked real to me. There was other people there. Nobody bumped into him. I'm wondering, could everybody see him or just me, or did everybody see me talking to myself so they're walking around me? I have no idea, you know? And so I wished I'd recorded him. Well, you know, fast forward to this year. Went down there looking for Daryl's grandmother's mine, and we're down there into an area, and we got Salvador Delgadillo with us, and we're going into this area. There's no trespassing, and there's an old trailer there, and you can see they had some kind of a mining operation. And Salvador says, yeah, Jim Hatt used to live there. He was caretaker of this mine. And we walk in there, and sure enough, man, on the floor, there's a bunch of Jim Hatt's business cards. But I never heard from Jim Hatt again. What secrets did Jim Hatt have to tell me? He just told me a great story about getting stranded out there. I wished he'd have told me something where the gold was, where the Lost Dutchman mine was or something. But he didn't tell me any secrets. He didn't tell. But it blew my mind for a long time. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if that happened that time, how many times has that happened before? And I would have never known if Salvador hadn't said, stop, look, man, there's the old coke ovens. It wouldn't have flashed back in my mind. I never said anything, and I'd have never known. And, that changed my life, because I was not a believer in ghosts. I was not, and I got to think now something's going on, and that freaked me out.
That's pretty cool. That's people still answering that question. There's been a winner. The guy said he wants what's in the chest. So
cool.
You get what's in the chest. Here's what's in the chest. It's a hat pin. It's a pistol. It's a pistol hat pin, and there's also a hat pin that says Gold Prospector on it. It's hard to see. That's what's in the hat. That's what you want. But you know what you didn't take? You didn't take the envelope. You know what's in the envelope? $20. You'll never know. Anyways, okay.
Cool.
So let's see. Great story, Terry. Makes you wonder. Or I think those coke ovens, they're, I tell Wayne every year, yeah, I'm going to go out there, and I just never do, because it always falls out.
It's a good time out there.
I know. I keep saying I'm going to, but every year it seems to fall on. We do metal detecting hunts here, but this year I told him I'll be out there. But so that area going out there, if you go over way more, I guess, I don't know which direction that would be, but you go towards Hayden area, Florence and Hayden, there's a bunch of coke ovens. That's where all the coke ovens are, way out there. In that area. If that's the same.
I don't even know where Salvador took me. I remember, man, we're on this in this tunnel where this train goes through, and this tunnel, I think it's short, but man, this tunnel's going forever and ever. And I'm looking at the sides of the walls, and I'm thinking, if a train comes by, man, the wind of that thing sucks you into that, and there ain't a lot of room. If there's something sticking out, man, we could end up toast here. And I started running, freaking out with that tunnel. But anyways, I don't know where we was at. I don't know the area. Salvador took me there. You'd have to ask Salvador.
Yeah, I just know there's coke ovens out there. Do you ever see pictures of Jim? Paul asked.
I did see a picture of Jim, and although I think it kind of looks like him, I'm trying to remember what Jim looked like 3 or 4 months earlier, because it's you meet somebody and you try to remember. I tried to remember everything that went on that day when I talked to him, and 4 months later, I
just never know. What's new with Brewer's Cave, Terry? Any luck?
So Brewer's Cave. Brewer's Cave is a story of a guy found a cave that it turned into an ancient tomb that had 2 giants, male and a female, in stone sarcophaguses decked out with gold crowns, gold breastplates. The man was 8'9", the woman was 7'8", something like that, and then there was a lot of ancient records in there. Well, I thought the story was a farce. I got into some records that I shouldn't have got into, and found that story, and I got a hold of everybody that was involved with it. And I ended up tracking down a stone box that came out of there that was wrapped in cedar bark, smeared with pine pitch, and then covered with mud. So it looked like a big boulder or rock or something, mud, dirt clod or something. Inside of it was 5 metal plates on copper with this ancient looking writing on it. I thought it was some kind of a fraud, but I did some carbon dating on that, and when they carbon dated it, it dated between, well, when they first carbon dated, they knew what it was. They thought it was a fraud, but when they carbon dated, it came out to be 2500 BC, that bark on there. And they thought they screwed up. So they ran it again and again. It came to 25. And 10 times they ran that. 10 times it came out to 2500 BC. And then they decided they was doing some tests on some other artifacts at the same time. And they came out much older than they thought. So they got checking and they did screw up. They'd bought a new type of solution for their machine, and their machine wasn't calibrated for that solution that they got. So when they recalibrated the machine for that solution, it threw it back from 2500 BC to 50 to 350 BC. And when I got that date back, I thought, wow, this is ancient. This has got to be real. You know, the real test is if you break into the tomb and we find two giant mummies in stone sarcophaguses, you know, that'll be the real proof. But I tried, I think I found where it's at. I got all kinds of clues. I think I found where it's at, but it's in an area you can't dig. You can't even put a shovel in the ground. I got a lawyer out of Arizona there, and we contacted the lawyer who helped write the antiquities laws for Utah. And we told him, put him under client confidentiality privileges, and without telling him exactly where we was at, kind of told him the story of what we was looking for and what we was doing. He told me I just sell drugs, because when I get caught, I'm going to prison. It's the same. You know, you don't mess with the antiquities laws. So I've been trying to you know, do things and you know, I for this to be that I found the right place, there had, you know, Brewer drew a map of this area, and he had a shaft going down into it, a 30-foot shaft. Well, I got a ground penetrating radar, and we went up there and we found the shaft, but the shaft is collapsed in. He dynamited the original tunnel up. So I've done some digging, and a lot of digging, and I've found, you know, some of his old stuff that I think's his. You know, he talked about it in his journal. I uncovered his journal. The old candles he used. This is back in the 50s when he started doing this. And he did this over a period of 10, 15 years. He excavated on this thing regularly, you know. Well, because of the antiquities laws and that, I'm kind of stopped. And it's not like I want to go in and loot the thing. You know, I want to find it. I want to video it. I want to share it with everybody. But I want to bring my archaeologists in. I want it to be up and up, but you know, that I'm just not having any luck at getting the up and up. Well, I was friends with Robert Shrewsbury, who was friends with John Brewer, who found this, and John Brewer told him where his cave was. And just before Robert Shrewsbury passed away, he says, "Come on up to the house. You know, I've just been told I got congenital heart disease, and I don't know. I think I can beat this, but if I don't, you know, I don't want the secret dying with me." So I went up to his house, and he told me where John Brewer told him it was. I got to explore it some more. It's not in the same area that I thought it was at. Everything that I think where it was at fits. Was this one that another one? John Brewer, he found a map in there that showed seven locations in the Sanpete Valley, but he showed 33 locations throughout the western United States where these ancient tombs were. And I'm wondering, he found a couple others. He found one other one there in Sanpete Valley, and I wonder if this is one of the ones that he shared with Robert Shrewsbury, and not the main one, or not the one that had these giants with the crowns and the breastplates all made of gold, you know. So I don't know. I'm still working on it. It's slow progress. I've been working on it a long time, and man, it's just one of them things you just like to know the truth, you know.
Well, hey, you could get a team together anytime. Let's go get it.
So that's the problem is where it's at. You can't legally dig. You can't. I thought, man, I'll file a mining claim on it, do some exploratory holes and do something like that. You cannot put a shovel in the ground where it's at. You can't do nothing.
Wow. But sneak in there.
But sneak in at night.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. Yeah, no, I understand that. You know, Anyways, let's see. Antonio and the vaults. I heard someone found them. I don't know. And Antonio D. Espajoja. I don't know how to speak Spanish. So. And the vaults. I heard someone found them.
That's
You know,
that sounds like an old Spanish explorer, D'Espejo.
yeah. I was talking to Pat Keene. He's been on the show a few times, but a long time ago, he talked about, and I just talked to him a couple days ago too. He's going to come on the show maybe next week or week after. But he talked about gases, like you were talking earlier. That you can look at the mountains and the different colors of what's under the ground. Gold will put out a certain color, silver will put out a certain color. But he says they're poisonous. And when you go on these, you got to wear masks and stuff like that because they're really toxic gases. Is if you're digging these stuff out, what Pat's telling you about.
Yeah, not only are they poisonous, some people say they carry some kind of an energy field, so that if you walk through some of them things, man, it could cause you to have a heart attack.
Wow. So, so yeah, I'm still looking for some treasures. Daryl and Robert, those guys, they're really yahoos. They really are, and they'll get you out on some of the strangest places and hike. So Daryl will say, "Hey, come on, let's go exploring." Okay, we'll go out to this place, and he'll say, "Yeah, you got to walk clear to the mountain up there, though." Okay, but he ain't going. He's going to stay down. He'll say, "Tell me what you see up there."
Hey, you see how old Daryl is and what he's still doing. Daryl's probably 10 years older than me, and I went on some hikes with him when he hiked me right into the dirt. But there are only a few people that I know that have taken the time, have really walked the walk, talked the talk, and done the exploring and put the like John Brewer. John Brewer, he spent 10 years digging on this, finding all this stuff, digging to find this tomb. 10 years, Well, there's only a handful of people that have the ambition and the tenacity to do something like that. Daryl's one of them people.
Oh yeah, there's one area. There's a lot of history around there, a lot of writings, and a lot of stuff that we still have to explore. So, but it's just too hot to get out right now. We can't do anything until it gets cold. We'd die up there right now.
Yeah.
Not to mention the snakes are out really bad. Trucking Nomad, he's up in Utah. He said lots of Indian artifacts have been found around San Rafael, Swell, and Comb Ridge area of Utah.
I'm not much. The Indian stuff is cool, and I've seen a lot of it, but I like the more ancient, the out of place stuff, the Egyptians, the giants, and things like that. But I was in the San Rafael Swell area and traveling some dirt roads that I'd never been on before, and I noticed this rocked up area. It was like a trail, and so I wanted to see what this trail was. And so I get out and I get on this trail, and this trail is zigzagging in and out of the little fingers of the canyons. And I'm wondering, why the heck is that doing that? Why they didn't cut a straight line and just go straight? Why'd they go in and out of all these little arroyos, And then it dawned on me, there used to be a lake there. There used to be a lake there, and the trail had to follow in and out along the shoreline, and then it went back in and back into a box canyon. And I always wanted to go back and see where, and I did. When I followed it, it looked like there was a mountain came, and it looked like there was a tunnel. They carved a tunnel through the mountain, but it all collapsed in. But I really wasn't sure, and I didn't have time, and I always wanted to go back and check that out. And I just, you run out of time. Too many projects, too much work gets in the way, too much, you just never enough time to do everything you want. But the San Rafael Swell, there's a lot of cool petroglyphs there. There's a lot of cool things there in the San Rafael Swells. The Outlaws used to hide out there. Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, there was a lot of cool things went out there in the San Rafael Swells. And there was an article a long time ago about some old boy found large nuggets in the San Rafael Swell area. He was finding large ones.
Wow. So you talked about, so how do you tell the difference between, let's say, Spaniards writings on the walls and all that, and Indians writings on the wall? How do you tell the difference?
There's a big difference. However, sometimes the Spaniards would put their mark in amongst the Indian to try and confuse you, you know. So, but the Indians, it's just kind of, picture things. Spaniards, especially if it was for the King Trails, it's more organized. It's more, you know. So sometimes it's tough, but you know, because Spaniards would try to trick you that way. They'd put their marks in amongst the Indians. But
Okay, trucking nomad, I got a question for you. Remember that there was in Utah, we went up there and I flew the drone up to that cave, but I didn't want to get near the cave or in the cave because I didn't want to lose my drone. I didn't want to hit it against the side, or anything like that. Trucking Nomad has a drone, but he uses goggles to fly it with. So my question is, flying it with goggles, do you have more control of that where you can actually go inside of a mine without hitting anything? Like if I'm looking, this thing had to be a mile away or more that where this drone is flying. I can't see the drone other than this little screen. And
yeah.
I don't want to crash it. But if I could look through some goggles and fly in it with goggles, does that
I would think that if you lost signal, if you go inside of a mine and you lose signal, you just lost control of your drone. But I bought a drone specifically because I had a friend of mine who found some Egyptian hieroglyphs in the Grand Canyon in Lake Powell, which would have been along the Grand Canyon. And if you know the story about the Egyptians in the Grand Canyon, I'm thinking this could be part of that same group. This was pure Egyptian. Now, whether it was some Egyptologist who wrote this while he was out at Lake Powell, and it says, me and my family came here and they had a great time. Who knows that? But it was Egyptian looking hieroglyphs, and I wanted to find that. My friend, they took their houseboat. It was when Lake Powell was real full. They pulled it up one of these canyons as far as they could go, and then they took the family and went on a hike, seen these, and took the family photo in front of it. Didn't know what it was, and when he showed me 10 years later after he'd taken the photograph, he shows me, and I'm thinking these are Egyptian, man. This has something to do with the Egyptians in the Grand Canyon. There's another cavern somewhere. I need to find these. So I bought me a drone, and I decided I'm gonna practice flying my drone because I want to fly the drone all over the place and practice looking at boulders and that and see if I can see these hieroglyphs so I don't have to hike as much. So I go over to the school and I'm practicing flying the drone, looking on the little screen like you're flying along the school. I'm flying along the wall of the school, and there was a light pole there and I didn't see it. I'm only looking forward, and I hit right into the light pole and crashed my drone.
And that was your drone story.
That was my drone story.
Yeah, they're a lot better. When I first wanted a drone, I asked I said, can I buy a drone? And I was told, no, you can't, And how much? Oh, they're about $1,400. No. Well, I bought a Chinese knockoff. It was about $300. Had a GoPro camera on it. I set it up in the air. Oh, that's pretty cool. Land it, send it back up in the air, get a little braver, go out. And I push go to home. It thought home was China because this sucker took off, man. I found it 3 months later. It came down all destroyed, rotted. So then I bought another smaller one. And then I bought another smaller one. I lost them all. Then I finally got a decent one. You got to have the ones that have the sensors around them so they don't crash into anything, and they have to have a GPS. The other ones didn't have a GPS, so you're constantly on the controls. You just can't stop and let it hover. So the good ones, you just let go and they just sit there and hover. You don't have to constantly fight them, So anyway, so I got a couple good drones, but I don't want to lose them.
Yeah, I have a couple friends that have drones, and somebody commented, the drones flying over the aerials and that, man, they're worth their weight in gold for checking out old trails, for doing all that, for observing. They're a valuable. There's a lot of valuable tools nowadays, that we didn't have when I started. Before, I had to get the old snake cameras, and you had to hook them up to the TV to video with the old VHS recorders and take a car battery up and do all that. Now, man, you can buy something for $40 and hook it to your phone. And, technology is so much better now than what it used to be.
Yeah. But all the good stuff has been found with the boots on the ground,
All the easy stuff has been found. All the easy stuff has been found. The harder stuff, you're going to have to dig a lot harder. You're going to have to search a lot harder. But the equipment is so much better and smaller. It's so much smaller. That old snake camera, to lug that around and a battery and all to make it all work, man. That was a lot of work. Now, man, it's just something that fits real nice in your pocket or in your backpack. It's so much easier nowadays.
Oh,
Plus, with the internet, I remember before the internet, you had to do interlibrary loans and try and search and this. And now with the internet, man, just at the click of just a click of a button, man, there's all kinds of research you can do and all kinds of things you can find out.
But remember, before the internet, it was what they called, we're dating, it's what they call billboards. And you would have programs like a war dialer, and you would set a high and a low number, and it would just dial numbers all night long, and it's searching for that tone, that fax tone. And then you could connect, like I could connect if you had one set up and download games, or I could upload games, but they were called billboards. And that's how you got a hold of each other until everything came together as an internet, so to speak, But
I didn't know anything about that. When the internet first got going, that I knew about it, I had a thing called web TV, and I learned how to do HTML programming. I was on the internet with my TV, and I learned how to do internet HTML programming because I wanted to build a website for my treasure hunting story. I call it the Treasure Hunter's Hideout, and selling metal detectors, prosthetic equipment, and stuff. So I wanted to do a website, and so I built that, and I wasn't the first. Treasure hunting site out there. There was some others, not a lot, but there was some others out there. But at the time, I had one of the coolest, and I had people contacting me from all over the country and thinking that I'm this great treasure hunter, and I'm not. It's just the people I know, and they would ask me all kinds of questions, and these guys were brilliant. They'd write me brilliant emails and stuff, and I'd try and write them one back and try to sound brilliant back, and I can tell you what I know in 30 seconds, or else it'll take me an hour to try and write a small paragraph of what I know. I just, me and putting my words on paper, it doesn't work. So I'd try and write something. An email, and then it would just vanish. It would just disappear. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to go through all that again. So I just ended up not replying to people. And they thought, man, either Terry Carter, he's real secretive and he don't want to share anything and he won't talk to you, or else he's stuck up, and then people started bragging. Yeah, I've talked to Terry Carter before, and yeah, you're lucky if you get talking. I'm thinking, you guys, man, if you only knew, I'm an idiot. It's the reason I can't talk to you is because I can't put my words onto paper, and then when I try it disappears, and I'm done with that,
Craig Carter said, BBS. Bulletin board system is what it was called back then, before they linked it all together with the internet stuff. Trucking says he wants to get Spanish hid treasures in the caves, lakes on Kanab Creek. He's thinking about getting an underwater drone to go look. Now, there was a show. I just watched a show the other day. That team that goes out and looks for Bigfoot that's on TV. So they said they had a drone guy, people come in. She threw the drone in the cave, and then they lost the signal. And so they went to the other side of the mountain, and they were lucky. They picked the signal back up again and got the drone back. But
really, this is one of them flying drones, or is this a robot drone?
No, No, it was a flying drone, but it did. The propellers were inside protective case, like so if it hit walls or something, it wouldn't just bounce off
Oh, and
walls.
when they got so it just kind of landed, and when they got signal again, it took off again, or
I guess, yeah, because the lady was flying it in, then she said I lost signal, and then they went to the other side of the mountain where there was another cave, seeing if they couldn't pick the signal up over there, and they got signal again. They flew it back out, but they were looking for Bigfoot. That's the same shows. They're always looking for Bigfoot, and oh, we're close. Well, we're close. Oh, we're close, and nothing ever happens.
I used to didn't believe in Bigfoot. I thought I've been a hunter all my life and out in the mountains a lot, and you'd think you'd run into a dead body or somebody would shoot one or something, or you'd see one or hear one or and I never did. But then I used to do a lot of coyote hunting. I had a guy tell me that that the only reason you can get a coyote is because they don't have any logic or they they really have no logic to them. They got keen sight, keen sense, keen smell, and they have instinct. And their instinct is to find food. And so you can trick them. But if they had logic, because of their keen sense of smell, their sight, and their hearing, you'd never ever hardly ever be lucky if you did. And I got thinking, well, what if and to say how that works, he says that you take a hound, a guy that's running dogs looking for lions, they can run down a dirt road, and them dogs will pick up the scent of a lion, and those dogs will know from the distance of that road, 6 foot or whatever, they can tell you from one side of the road to the other side of the road which is the freshest track, and they go the right direction. I'm thinking, man, that's real keen sense. If they can tell in that short of a distance which is the freshest track, in that short of a distance, man, and I'm thinking, well, if Bigfoot has that keen sense and keen smell and hearing and plus logic, you would be just coincidence if you did see him. And I'm thinking, I've never found a body of one, or I haven't heard of anybody, but I really don't know of anybody who's found a body of a bear either. I've been out in the mountains a lot, and I've seen a bear maybe 2 times in my life, out in the wilderness, but I've never found a body of one. And all the hunters, all the friends that hunt, I don't know anybody that's ran into a body of a bear. So I had a friend, White Eagle, that told me he's seen one when he was a kid, and I know White Eagle wouldn't lie to me, so I got to think maybe there's something to it, but I don't know.
How come I that's true. I've been all over the woods, and I've never saw a dead bear. How come you don't?
There's not very many of them. They say there's way more bear than there is Bigfoot. But yeah, I don't know anybody that's found a dead bear. Nobody.
Yeah, I've never have. That's weird. I never thought of that. I've never saw a dead Bigfoot either, though. So. But they've got to be there if they're been around for all the time. They got to be reproducing.
You'd think.
Wow. Anyways, all right, Terry. We're over our allotted time. I know you got to do something too. So
yep, I got another meeting I got to jump on at 8:00. So
we'll let you go. You got things to do. You have to get out here in this area, and let's go play. We got the team out here.
It sounds fun to me, Jack, man, and thanks for having me on. I don't know.
Hey. No, thanks, Terry. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your wisdom and knowledge and stories with us.
I don't have any wisdom and knowledge. I got a few stories. It's the people I know. I know a lot of people that has the wisdom and knowledge, and I'm just privileged to know them all.
Well, you know what? It was cool. I'm glad I got to get out to Utah for that get together thing out there. That was kind of interesting. I did talk to Gene a few days ago about being a guest on the show and letting him share some stuff. And so, but it was quite experiencing. Like I say, I got to meet, some cool people out there. And you mentioned that earlier. That was the whole thing.
That's the best part about that. Things, we had technical problems, all kinds of problems, but the but we pulled it off. But the best thing out there is all the people that came from all over the country. There was a lot of knowledge walking around there. If you just would talk to people and find out their stories, and there was a lot of knowledge running around there that day. So those 2 days. So I'm glad you came, Jack. I'm glad I got to meet you in person.
I know. Yeah, I've always heard about you and always seen you, but never really met. But so when I heard about this thing, and I had to come to Utah anyway because of family situations I had to go check out, and so it just kind of worked out. And I thought, I'm going to go up there and check that out. And so then I contacted you, and when you said, yeah, Daryl and them was going to be there, I said, well, then shit, I have to go there then, So hell.
Well, I'm glad you came.
So, anyways, hey Terry, take care. Appreciate you, bud. Have a
Thank
great
you.
continue on them stories, man.
All
Good
right.
luck, buddy.
Hey, have a good one.
Hey, tell us your YouTube channel again for everybody who wants to go on there.
Terry Carter, Treasure Hunter.
All right. Thanks, Terry. Good luck, buddy.
All right. Bye.
Okay, see you. Bye. All right. Anyway, so I've mentioned everything, all the activities going on, everything that's happening. You guys want any more information, call the 928-851-7167 for any information. The wheel, all that stuff is started. Let me find my intro out of here. You guys all take care of yourselves. Have a fantastic week. Appreciate all of you guys. Appreciate Terry coming on the show. Join us again next week until our paths cross again. You guys all take care. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a fantastic week.